Hello there. In this video, I will cover the course overview for ACTL3142 and 5110 Statistical Machine Learning for Risk Applications. So course overview means all the, I would say, housekeeping things, the course structure, the course materials, the course website, the assessments, overall how the course is run, all very important things you need to know. I personally find that it's better to do this in a video before the content or the first week of content starts. This way we can jump into the content straight away in the first week of lecture. So let's begin. We have your teaching team here. Alan is in charge of the undergraduate version of the course. Guillaume, that's me. You can call me Gilly if that's easier. I quite like it. It's my Aussie nickname. So I'm in charge of the postgraduate version of the course. And here we also put the photo of Patrick. So Patrick is really the mastermind behind those nice slides and the course website that I will present in a second. He's not currently teaching, right? So please don't go find his email address somewhere and send him questions, because then he's not responsible for the course right now. And if you contact him, well, then he might be a bit annoyed with me that I told you he was part of the teaching team. Anyway, here you have as well the tutorial team. So there's 4 tutors for the undergrads and 1 tutor for the postgrad. I'm sure you will meet your tutors in the first week, because yes, you will attend your tutorial, I'm sure. Now, overall, what are the course aims? What will you get out of this course? Very practical skills. So this course is hands-on. There is some theory that you need to know, but I think mostly it's a hands-on course. You will learn about building models for predictive tasks and classification tasks, and we'll explain what we mean by classification in the first week. Now, overall, many of the things we're going to cover have the aim to make a prediction. So you have some data. There's a specific variable you want to predict for future observation of this variable, and you build a model to make such predictions. Now, an important aspect is to understand how those models work, and also when and why they might not work. And frankly, this is quite important, especially now that it's easy to build models with AI tools like ChatGPT. Anybody can build a model, but to understand what the model does exactly, is it appropriate, what key insights you can get from your model, what decision you can make using what the model communicates. This is where your expertise will be needed in the workforce, because again, anybody can just ask ChatGPT, make me a model with this data set, and then if you don't understand what the model does and what's the limitations of the model, this can be quite dangerous actually. So yes, interpreting your model's results will be a key part of this course, but also I would say most likely in your future careers. And who knows? I mean, this is actually an AI generated image that could represent you. You know, you might be this young lady in the future explaining to this barista looking young man how he can increase his sales of matcha lattes. Now, overall, what are the course contents? We split it here into kind of 2 distinct parts. One you might call regression theory, and this is very classical topics, and classical in the sense that they're not so new. They were established, quite a few decades ago, I suppose. And I would hesitate to call this machine learning. It's more classical statistics, if you will. And we should spend 4 weeks on this. 4 weeks on this, and then from week 5, we'll jump into the more machine learning proper content of the course. Of course, week 6 is flexibility. Now, with this schedule, the goal is that in week 10, we won't have new theoretical content, but we're trying to organize industry guest lectures. So people working in the industry using machine learning tools in their day-to-day job, and give us a nice presentation of how they use machine learning in their day-to-day job. Now, this is to be confirmed. We're still organizing it. It should happen, but I cannot guarantee at this specific point in time. But my point is just that I should say in the past, there was theory presented until week 10. Okay, in previous editions of the course, the lecturers were presenting theory up to week 10. My students last term told me that they quite like that I kept week 10 free, like no new content. Now I had to do that because we had a public holiday actually happening in the lecture last term. But my students actually told me explicitly, even without public holiday, it's quite nice to have the luxury of no new content in week 10. And I quite agree. I think to have a little bit more buffer between when the last theory is presented in week 9 and when your final exam will happen is quite nice. Now, nothing comes for free in life. This does mean that compared to previous weeks, we're going a bit faster. In 2024, for example, they were covering this regression theory in 5 weeks instead of the 4. So we are going a little bit faster than previous years. But again, in my experience last term, this is quite reasonable to do. It's not going to be a crazy pace. Yes, it's UNSW. Yes, we only have 9 weeks in total, so it is fast. Should be manageable. Okay, now learning activities. Self-study. So there is a textbook for this course that I really encourage you to read. I'm going to present in a second the schedule of readings per week. This schedule is on the homepage of the course website that again I'm going to present in a few moments. Yes, please, I advise you don't skip those readings. They really help to understand the content maybe in a deeper way than just listening to the lectures. I really think the textbook is quite good. It explains well, and so going through the chapters, reading them carefully should really solidify your knowledge and well, help you achieve that sweet HD you have been dreaming about. I would say students often ask, are the readings mandatory? I would say no. Like, I cannot really force you to do them, and the course content is presented in a pretty exhaustive way in the slides, but the readings are really additional explanations that will help you understand what is presented in the lecture slides. Of course, then you have the lectures, so we'll try to actively engage in the face-to-face lecture. Now, it's possible we might provide extra lecture recordings if the lecture time is not enough to cover all the content. I'm not saying this is going to happen every week, but I'm just saying it could be possible. It could be that we're missing a little bit in the lecture, and then we send a video to complete again what we didn't have the time to cover in the face-to-face lecture. But of course, it is primarily a face-to-face lecture mode. Lectures, as usual, are recorded, but I do encourage you to attend face-to-face if you can. Then, of course, there's the labs. We call them labs here, but those are also called tutorials. Now, all the lab questions and possible solutions are on the course website. Standard advice is try them yourself, ideally before your tutorial. This way you can go to the tutorial with some knowledge of the actual lab questions, and you can ask questions to your tutor for aspects you don't fully understand. Some questions are marked with a star, so those I would say are your top priority, the one exercise you should start with. But then all the other exercises, of course, they're still relevant. They still provide extra practice for you in preparation for your for your assignments and especially the final exam. Again, try to actively engage in your face-to-face tutorial, meaning if the tutor has a question, try to answer it, try to participate, right? Active learning is usually better than just passively listening to whatever the tutor is saying. And again, if you can try those problems ahead of time yourself, I do feel you might get more value out of the tutorials. Okay, so here we have it, the course website. It has a relatively long URL, but there's also a shortcut you can use to access it. But it is, of course, also accessible from the Moodle page at the very top. There's a link to the course website. Maybe we can actually click the link and show you what it looks like. So this is the homepage. So on the homepage, you have kind of a summary of all the resources. So the lecture slides are here. Then you have the labs. Okay, glossary of relevant R function. The programming in this course will be done in R. You have the readings here. This is what I said before. In week 1, you should read those chapters of the textbook. In week 2, etc. Sometimes you have optional readings. Those are to supplement even more the information presented in the main part of the course and in the main or required reading. Okay, data sets, and then a list of who's contributed to this website over the years. so that's the homepage. But then, of course, you go to module 1. Course overview is exactly what I'm presenting now. And in essence, you have this website, which is like just a scrollable long page, but you also have the slides on the website. So basically, you have two formats for the course content. If you click here, this is exactly the slides I'm presenting right now, and I was presenting before. Which for me makes more sense to use slides to present the content, but for you, maybe if you want to review the content in this scrollable format, maybe that's more practical to you. I don't know, but you have those two formats. And actually, there's in fact a third format. So if you go back to the homepage, here, if you click slides, you're going to actually land on a PDF of the slides. So if you prefer a PDF for whatever reason, you have the PDF as well. Maybe PDF is easier to annotate, for example. Now, I will mention sometimes in the slides, in the slides as presented here within each module, the reveal.js format. In this format, you might have animations. You might have animations which will not work in the PDF. So just be mindful of that. I don't know if I can find an example, maybe in the introduction course, maybe there's some animation somewhere. I'm not entirely sure here, actually. Maybe I shouldn't waste time. Okay, this thing doesn't work. I'm gonna try to fix it later, but yeah, here, for example, you have animation. We're gonna explain this in the first week, but my point is just in the PDF, careful that the animations will not work. Okay, now let's go back to what I was presenting before. So the course overview slides. Let's make it full screen. So that's the course website. All the resources are there. I think it's quite nice. It's well organized, at least in my opinion. And it's a website, right? So it's accessible to the whole world. Okay, the main course textbook is this one, Introduction to Statistical Learning with Applications in R. So it's a book, but you can freely download it on the course website. So if you click this link, you'll land on the website for the course, and you can download it. Now, note there's a version where all the programming is done in Python, but we use the version where all the programming is done in R. And again, you can download this for free, which is quite nice. So a lot of resources included, including crowdsourced solutions to questions, our labs with detailed explanations. So yes, it is quite a nice textbook. It is very popular, like it's used all around the world in many different universities. So it is a nice textbook. Maybe a comment is that it focuses on intuition and practical implementation. So it has some mathematics, but I suppose mathematical proofs and sort of heavy theory behind the application is not the focus of the book. So if you have a keen interest in the mathematics of everything, the proofs, you might not find all the answers in this book. But there are other textbooks you could use for that. I don't think this is going to be an issue for most of you. But in fact, in the introduction, I forget the name, but there's another textbook that covers kind of similar content, but with way more proofs that the author linked to, and that you could consult then. This is all in the first chapter of the book. Okay, now in terms of platforms that we use in this course, of course we use Moodle, but I would say because you have all the resources of the course on this website, we make kind of minimal use of Moodle. So on Moodle, you'll find basic course information. The lecture recordings will be there, linked on Moodle as usual on this platform Echo360. Moodle is still where you submit all your assignments, and we're going to cover assignments in a moment. And then you have the links to other platforms we use, especially we're going to use EdDiscussion for as a Q&A forum, and also to host a few more resources of the course. So I'm just saying here, yes, we use Moodle, but not primarily, I suppose. Or not as heavily as other courses. Now, this EdDiscussion that you might have seen in other courses, I'm not sure. We use it for Q&A. So you access it from the top of the Moodle page, Ed Forum. Well, okay, I suppose here it's called Ed Forum. Here it's called EdDiscussion. I suppose it has several names. Now, I will post all my announcements there. So I will not use Moodle for course announcements. All official announcements will be posted on EdDiscussion. And this is, of course, where you should all ask all your questions about theory, running of the course, assessments. And please post them on Ed. If you send me a question on by email, I might actually reply and just tell you, okay, please ask this question on Ed. Now you do need to open Ed from Moodle once to be enrolled in Ed and to be able to, well, use the form. But it's as easy. Maybe I can show you just in a second. If I go to that's the Moodle for the course, at least the postgrad version. There's a Moodle for the undergrad. That should look quite similar. And then yeah, if you click here, Ed forum, you will go to the Ed discussion forum where there's no threads for now, but you could ask a question. If you've never used it, it's very user friendly. New thread, question about blah blah blah. You do need to pick a category. So if you have a technical question, you go here and then blah blah. I don't understand, and then etc. Then you can post it. Now, of course, I'm gonna exit this because I don't want to post this test question. Back to my slides. The benefits of asking questions on Ed allows you to get help at any point along the course, of course. Don't be shy. Really, the staff, me and the tutors, were here to help. And if you have a specific question, it's quite likely somebody else has the same or similar question. It creates a community. As you see that other students have questions, you realize you're not struggling alone. Other people also have issues or things they don't fully understand. And it gives you the opportunity to help others. So if you see a question and actually there's no answers for now, and you actually know the answer, by all means, please answer. The staff, we're going to monitor the forum. So if, I don't think it's going to happen, but if a student answers something that is incorrect, we're going to gently correct it. So there's no issues with that. So yes, I do encourage you to answer your peers' question. And it makes the teaching staff happy because, yeah, of course, Ed is way more efficient than answering one-on-one questions by email, for example. And so, of course, you want the teaching staff to be in a good mood, especially when they grade your assignments. So yes, rely on Ed rather than emails. Okay, just a few tips. I don't think I want to spend too much time on this, but before posting, check through your course notes. So obviously you're very welcome to ask questions, but if the question is super easily answerable by just reading the lecture slides, okay, maybe you should read the lecture slides before you ask your question. And try before posting. The forum shouldn't become a crutch for you to just, as soon as you don't understand something you ask. I think it's worth it for you to kind of try to answer your question yourself, and then when you're stuck, then you ask us for a bit of clarification. Okay, search before you post. Maybe your question has been answered before. Please be specific and include what you understand already. Maybe you attempt to a specific question and then say, okay, I'm stuck there. Can you please help out? If you just post something like, I don't understand exercise X, well, it's not very specific and it's going to be a bit hard for us to help you because we don't know what you don't understand. Show some love by heart reacting questions and answers. So yes, on the Ed forum, you can put a little heart if you enjoy somebody's comments or question or answer, including your lecturer's comments. Well, it's a detail, but those heart reactions, they're anonymous in the sense that nobody can know who hearted something. You can just see that, okay, 3 people have hearted this reaction, and this including myself. I don't know who hearted something. So there's no fear of heart reacting somebody and like the others are going to think you're a suck up or something because nobody knows if you have hearted something. Okay, there's also this thing called Ed resources that even if you use the Ed forum before, maybe you have maybe your previous lectures haven't used this feature, Ed resources. So this is essentially a collection of, or it will be a collection of files. Now, why do we use this? Well, it's simply that most of the course material on the website already. However, if I have any files I want to share with you that are really specific to your cohort, files that basically they have no business being online, then I will post them there on Ed resources. So something like, well, assessment files. I don't necessarily want the whole planet to have access to the specific assignments for the course. Maybe global feedback I want to give you about the assignments. Maybe if I annotate anything in class, I'm going to share that on Ed resources, not on the website. Past papers I'll put on Ed resources. So those kinds of files I will put here under this Ed resource. Maybe let me just show you on the Ed website here. It's over here, Ed resources. I haven't put anything yet, but again, if I need to share anything specific to your cohort, I would put it there. And okay, this I clicked it by mistake, but on this format of slides, you have a tool to annotate things, or I suppose you can even write stuff. I don't know if that's useful for you, but might be useful for me. Anyway, but now I want to exit it and go back here, full screen. Oh, that's annoying that I have this. I have this everywhere. Maybe I can. I don't know how to erase this. Okay, that's a little annoying. I need to find a way to erase that. Okay, we are back. And now we arrive to the assessment section that maybe is the one you care the most about. So overall, in the course, you have 10% on what we call formative assessments, and I'll give a bit of detail on those in a second. You have this introduce yourself task, 1%, and then you have 5 tasks of 3% each. Now, obviously, all those percentages they don't sum to 10, but you get a maximum of 10%, which means you can miss some of those tasks and still get full marks for the formative. So we want this to be a tool to, well, incentivize you to be up to date, but we don't want to stress you out too much with this. You can miss basically 2 of the 3% tasks and still get 10 out of 10 for that component. Then you have an assignment. It's written assignment in the course outline as 1 item, but in fact, it's going to be 2 deliverables. So you will have part A worth 12% and part B worth 18%. Now, those will be related, but you should view them as independent assignments. They will use the same data set, but they are independent tasks, meaning your grade on part B is totally independent of your grade on part A. You can do poorly in part A, but then wake up and do very well in part B, for example. And then, of course, the final exam worth 60%, as is quite usual for actuarial exams. Okay, so the formatives, we will call each of these tasks a story wall. What does this mean? Well, as I said, those are designed to encourage you to keep up to date and engage with the course content, experiment early, without the fear of needing to be 100% correct. So this is formative, which means that it's essentially assessed on pass or fail basis. If your attempt is reasonable, we give you the mark, even if it has some problems. You submit this on a Moodle forum, which has the format that it's a discussion forum, but you don't see anybody's answer until you post your own. So you post your own, and then after that, you can see everybody else's attempts at a specific task. Now, those weekly 3% task, they will have many different questions. So you do need to attempt every component of the question. So I said you can make small mistakes and still get the marks. Yes, but you need to attempt everything. Otherwise, you're not going to get the mark. If you just, for some reason, do question 1, 2, and 3, but not 4 and 5, for example. Another very important component of those tasks is to interact with your peers. So you need to give feedback to another student's submission. And this must be specific feedback showing some critical thinking. It's not just something like, great analysis, good work, you're the GOAT. So this would be considered way too minimal feedback and you wouldn't get the grade then. So you really need to engage with the ideas of your fellow students and give them some constructive feedback on their attempt. Now, all of this is explained in a bit more detail in the actual discussion board. So there's a relatively long a list of key points you need to follow, including a marking criteria. So my point here is don't view those as free or automatic marks. It's still a serious task. You're not going to get the grade automatically if you just post something, but it should be quite easy to get the marks if you do the task seriously. Okay, so again, answering the actual question and giving feedback to a peer, both of the things need to be done for you to get the 3%. Okay, missing a component or giving non-specific feedback, even if the rest of your submission is good, we'll give you 0. Now, the comments from your peers will be the primary source of feedback. Yes, unfortunately, us, the teaching staff, we don't have the time to grade all those tasks in detail. So we go over them, we make some checks to make sure it's reasonable, but we don't provide specific feedback to every person. So the feedback you get from a peer, this is the main source of feedback you're going to receive. Because of that, when you give feedback, put yourself in the mindset that you're a, say, friendly grader. You give this with the view to give some perhaps suggestion for improvement in a friendly manner, and give the type of feedback you would like to receive, in the sense that quite detailed, quite specific, friendly, but making like specific maybe recommendations or food for thought, something the person missed or didn't think about. Yeah, view yourself as literally a grader, but of course a friendly grader. Okay, so as I said, there's 5 of those story wall tasks, each worth 3%. But again, your total for this component is 10%. So if you do the introduction task 1% and you get 3 out of 3 for 3 more, then that's it. You've maxed out your grades. Now they are due always Friday, always at 11:55 a.m. Careful with that. So right before noon, 11:55 a.m. And they are due in week 3, 4, 7, 8, 10. The introduce yourself task is already due at the end of week 1, but that's an easy icebreaker. So hopefully you're not too stressed with this introduce yourself task. Now, pro tip, yes, aim to get 10 out of 10 on those marks, because again, they're not free marks, they're not automatic marks. I think fair to say they're easy marks. Okay, part 1 of the assignment will be due Friday of week 5. This will be a data science task using the techniques mostly from the regression theory part of the course, so the first 4 weeks. And then the part 2 of the assignment will be due week 9, Friday, of course. Everything is due Friday, 11:55 a.m. And this will have a connection to the first part, use the same data set, but then we're going to ask you to make a more extensive use of all the techniques seen in the course, and especially focusing on the machine learning part. Obviously, the specific assignment details will be released in due time. To summarize the schedule of assessments, so all due dates are Friday, 11:55 a.m. Week 1, introduce yourself, and then most weeks you have story wall. Then week 5 is the first part of the assignment. Okay, week 6, flexibility week, nothing, and then story wall 3, 4. Week 9 is the assignment part 2, and the very last week you have story wall 5. Obviously, if you're very assiduous, well, by week 7, by story wall 3, you might have maxed out your grades for all formative. That's possible. If not, well, you can recover in story wall 4 and or 5. Now, late policy. For the formative assessments, for those story wall, we do not grant special consideration, and you cannot submit a task late. Now, you might say this is a bit harsh, but because we're lenient in the sense that you can miss 2 out of 5 tasks and still get full marks, we're lenient in that sense, but we're not lenient elsewhere. So again, you cannot submit a task late for those formative. So there's no special consideration for those tasks, basically. In essence, you can view the fact that there's 3 tasks to do out of 5 as an automatic special consideration. Like, we understand, of course, that you could be sick, or sometimes life gets in the way. You cannot submit a specific week, the specific task for that week, but there's already an automatic provision that you can miss one and without consequences to your final grade, because you're going to recover in the next one. Now, for the assignment, then yes, you can apply for special consideration. Of course, this is a centralized UNSW system. You're not asking me by email, for example, if I don't know, your dog ate your homework, right? Like, you need to apply to the centralized system for special consideration. And the late policy is as usual well, if you get special consideration, then if you get special consideration, then probably you can submit your assignment later without penalty. If you do not have special consideration for your assignment, then the policy is as usual, 5% per partial day of lateness. So if you're 1 minute late, well, that's 5% penalty. If you're 1 day and 1 minute late, that's then 10% penalty, and so But and careful with that. It's up to if it's up to 5 days, right? So if you submit after 5 days, then technically you get a zero. Well, I don't know why I said technically. You get a zero if you submit uh, late by 5 days. Okay, actually, here there's a specific example. I don't want to insult your intelligence. I think you already understand, but let's just review this quickly. This is an example for assignment part 2, due week 9, Friday, 11:55 a.m. So if you submit at 11:55 a.m. on the Friday, okay, you played with fire by submitting at the very last minute, but okay, no penalty. But if you submit 1 minute late, 5% penalty. If you submit 1 day and 1 minute late, 10% penalty, and so on, etc. Now, if you get um, if you get to 5 days and a minute late, then you get zero. And now, just a comment, but what does 5% penalty means? It means minus 5%. Okay, careful with that. It's minus 5%. For example, if you have 2 days of late penalty, so a 10% penalty, your grade would go from, if your grade without penalty was 80 out of 100, you're gonna get 70 out of 100. I say that because I don't know, but it could be that other lecturers are more generous with this in the sense that they would multiply your grade by 0.9, okay, which is more generous. But no, here it's a minus 10% for 2 days of lateness. Okay, and lastly, well, plagiarism and ChatGPT. Of course, you should never show your work for assignments to other students. Okay, you could be penalized for only sharing your work because yes, let's say your friend asks you for help. Okay, you can maybe discuss the assignment problems qualitatively, but if you give them your assignment, if you give them, for example, your code, then you lose control. If they use it, if they copy paste, you might be in trouble because this could be considered collusion, which is a serious offense in the, well, on the academic integrity. And of course, if you use something directly from an external source, you need to cite it, including if it's ChatGPT. So now, I'm well aware that ChatGPT is now pretty good, especially at coding tasks. So I'm not saying you shouldn't use ChatGPT. You can use it, but if you use it, you need to specify to us how you use it. And we're going to ask this specifically in the assignment. You will have an appendix where you will need to explain to us how you used AI to help you with the assignment. And if you use it as is, like if you literally just copy paste, that could be fine, but you need to quote it. Like the same way if you copy paste from a book, if you put quotation marks and you cite your reference, that is fine. You've used the book, but you've clearly said that this is not your work. It's the work from the author of the book. ChatGPT is the same. If you copy paste, you need to acknowledge that this is literally taken from ChatGPT. And so yeah, and if you're ever unsure about plagiarism rules or anything like that, you can always ask your lecturer to clarify. Now, in terms of exam, there's quite a few past exams for this course that we'll give you access to. I would say the course has changed quite a bit in coverage over the years. So probably the most recent years, 2023 to 2025, are the most kind of appropriate for your revision, but we're going to give you more years than that. And then in case you're not sure if this question is still relevant to the 2025 content, you can always ask us. But you can also use your judgment, right? If this question is like on a topic that we never covered, well, of course, it's not relevant anymore, right? Okay, and by the way, obviously I'm going to provide you with more detail about this later, but the exam will be invigilated, but on a computer. So we will use this platform called Inspera for exams. And this means that you come to campus with your own laptop and you do your exam. So on the computer, on your own device, on your own laptop, but on this platform called Inspera and on campus. So it's invigilated, but on the computer. Again, we will provide more details about the specific format of the final exam in due time. Okay, now the last section, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but we include here some actual comments from the students from previous editions of the course. That might be interesting to you, or maybe not, but we provide them for your information. And we've copy pasted quite a lot of those comments taken from the official My Experience surveys. Overall, there is a sort of recurring theme in many of the feedback received, which is that the course, maybe compared to other actuarial courses, is seen as quite practical, quite hands-on, and quite heavy on computing things, coding things. And this, I would say, mostly is viewed as a positive thing, but not everybody is entirely happy with this. So I've included a comment that's very positive about the practical and coding aspect of the course. I'm not going to read all of this, but basically the conclusion is that maybe they like the computer science aspect of the course too much, because they say uh, this shift in interest from application to creation is why I'm considering changing my degree from actuarial to computer science. So they like the programming so much there. I'm not sure if my boss would be happy to see that we're losing students to computer science, but still, they were very happy with the course. Now, here we have the complete opposite. So somebody who didn't like coding, you can read this for yourself. They appear to be kind of cranky. This is almost like a rant. But they say, that we shouldn't be coding 500 lines of code. Now, I'd be a bit surprised your assignment will be 500 lines of codes. Maybe their assignment was inefficient. That's why they needed so many lines. But anyway, and also they say, well, it should be more theoretical, and they would like a final exam of 70% rather than 60%. Now, I put this comment there for your information, but frankly, I don't think this is the majority opinion. I think most students think that maybe 60% is actually too high for a final exam, but we have to have it at 60% because of accreditation rules, and also most students are happy with the hands-on practical aspect of the course. Like, we have real data, we try to generate useful insights from this data that can answer kind of real world questions. It's not all theory. Okay, briefly, our perspective. Yes, this course will require you to complete a substantial amount of programming, which it could be that will be more than any other course you've taken before. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it depends on your background. And so it could be quite a step up in terms of the difficulty of the coding tasks. Obviously, we're here to help. The tutors are here to help, and there's going to be a substantial component of the weekly tutorials that are going to be about programming. So you should be able to get the necessary help there. And obviously, you have the discussion forum in case you're stuck on something. And I think it's fair to say statistical machine learning coding can be very enjoyable, but it can also be frustrating, right? So when your code doesn't work and you don't know why, and you spend hours on it, obviously it can become very frustrating. But here, I don't think there's a shortcut. To get better at coding, you need to make a lot of mistakes and learn from them. And then when you overcome your mistakes, when your code works, your model is great, it generates important or useful insights, then you're going to feel very powerful, and you're going to think, coding is amazing. Maybe I'm going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg and create I don't know, innovative new platform that's going to generate billions, right? But yes, along the way, you will make some mistakes. But I'm sure you're going to be up to the challenge to fix those mistakes. And lastly, with some likelihood, your future career as in the actual industry, or maybe more broadly in the data analytics sphere, will have a sizable amount of data science, statistical programming. This is in fact probably a key part of your chosen profession. So here, I don't know if this is a warning, but maybe something to have in mind. If you realize upon completing this course that you really are averse to coding, like anything that has to do with programming, you really hate it, perhaps that's key information for you to, I don't want to say change careers, but maybe think about what can you do in the actual sphere that doesn't have so much coding. That could be something for you to reflect on, because quite a few career paths in actual studies now, I think fair to say, have a substantial amount of coding that you will have to do in the workplace. But this is just something, it's not too scary, but something to reflect on. Okay, lastly, for this section, a suggestion, get a rubber duck. So yes, getting a rubber duck is it's a real thing. There's a Wikipedia page about this. Now, it's a recommendation that's a bit tongue-in-cheek, I suppose. But the idea of the rubber duck is that when you're coding and you're stuck, like your code doesn't work, it doesn't compile, or it doesn't do what you want it to do, you could actually try to explain to the rubber duck what your code is doing, and that surprisingly can debug you, because when you code without having explain your code to somebody explicitly, there might be a mistake that you're just blind to. But when you start explaining your code kind of line by line to somebody, or in this case, the rubber duck, you might actually find a mistake there. So you really literally go by line by line. Okay, first step, I'm declaring my variables. Now I import my data set. Now, and then you realize, actually, I'm missing the extension in my file for the data set. Something as silly as that, you might realize when you explain to the rubber duck where the mistake is. Obviously, you could explain that to a human, like a friend or a partner or something like that, but they're not always available. And also, the good thing about the rubber duck is that the rubber duck is never judgmental and also will keep all of your secrets. Those two things are not guaranteed if you explain your code to your friend. But okay, all of that's a bit tongue-in-cheek. Maybe the last thing as well is talking to the rubber duck, I think is a good idea. Perhaps better to do that in a private space. If you do that in public, you might get some strange looks from people around you. But you do what you will. It's a free country after all. Okay, now here there's a few pages of more comments from the students. So organized here, what were the best things about the course? So here you have lots of students quite like the course. I think it's fair to say overall it's a well-liked course. Enjoy the multimodal options for learning. So this person said that having access to a website, a textbook, in-person classes, some recorded lectures, really fostered a strong learning environment for me. Blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to review all of this. Chill vibes overall. That's good to know. You can read those if you think there's some value in them. I didn't want you to think that, okay, this course is like amazing, everybody just loves it. So I did include some of the comments about what could be improved in the course. So again, I'm not going to review them in detail. You can go over them if you're interested. Quite a few of those do mention that there's a lot of content, and this, I'm not going to say it's not true. As you know, it's UNSW, only 9 weeks to teach everything. So yes, the content goes by quite fast, and it does feel like it's a lot that piles over. Well, especially if you're not up to date week by week. Some people complain about the assignment that were too much work. Look, that's always going to be the case, that some students think the assignments take too long to do, too much content again, blah blah blah. Okay, I don't want to discard this feedback from the students, but it is there for you to consider. And lastly, I think the last section is this is not a question from the My Experience survey. It's more which was part of the reflection that the lecture posted to the students in 2024, actually. So is there anything you wish you could have told your former self before starting to help you to prepare for this topic? So a few representative answers that the student gave. Again, could be useful for you to read what student thought could have been good advice for them before they started the course. But again, I'm not going to read them myself. They are there for your enjoyment. And okay, I think I'm at the end of the slide. So well, this video is already long enough, so I'm going to stop here. And just tell you good luck with the course. Hope you come to class. Hope to see you around. And yes, let's start the content already in week 1. Okay, so bye-bye for now.